Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
We are here today as elected members of Congress. We're here today because an unelected billionaire and his team have been given full and unfettered access to our taxpayer money and our government. We just tried to enter the Treasury building as members of Congress, and we will, because we need to provide oversight to Elon Musk and his team. We don't know what they're doing behind these closed doors. The people deserve transparency. The fact that an unelected billionaire has all your private information is a problem. He has access to all of our information, our Social Security numbers, the federal payment system, which means he's calling the shots on our taxpayer money. You mean to tell me a man worth over $400 billion is going to decide what happens with my grandma's Social Security check? There's absolutely no oversight as to what he's doing. What's to stop him from stealing taxpayer money? Nothing. That is why we're here as House Democrats, to hold the line and fight for our constituents. Listen, they campaigned across the entire country, telling people they were going to fight for working people, but they lied. They want to use the government to further enrich these corrupt billionaires and corporations. They want us to believe that the reason we can't pay for our health insurance, the reason we can't cover rent, the reason kids are dying on the streets due to gun violence, the reason there's so much wealth inequality and that so many people live paycheck to paycheck is because of the immigrant, or because of the trans person, or because of your neighbor. They lied. It's because of corrupt billionaires like Elon Musk and corporations, not our fellow working people. I'll end by saying this. We might have a few less seats in Congress, but we're not going to be the minority. We're going to be the opposition. We're not going to allow them to steal from our people, from working class people. And we will fight, we will provide oversight, and we will win. Let's go!
Florida.
Thank you. Governor Reynolds, thank you so much for being here today. I've been to Iowa. I've spent a lot of time in Iowa. It's a beautiful state. So thank you for being here. Medicaid covers almost 700,000 Iowans, over a third of Iowa's children. In 2013, I believe, Iowa expanded Medicaid. I have a few questions for you. If Medicaid funding were to disappear, what would that mean for the people of Iowa?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it will disappear. Simply looking at a system and seeing if we can enhance it and make it better doesn't.
That's not my question, though, Governor. My question is, if it were to disappear, what would that mean for your?
Well, I don't think that's the intent of anybody, but we need to do it better, and we need to help these
If it
kids
were to
be
disappear,
successful.
Governor, what would that mean for the
Well, I
people?
can't speculate on that because I don't believe that that would happen.
So you, as the governor of your state, can't say what it would mean to lose Medicaid for your people? Okay, we'll move on. How would people across Iowa react to rural and community health centers having to suddenly close?
Well, we're, as I talked about in my opening remarks, we're actually working on maternal health and working on healthcare in rural Iowa. And that means, again, looking at regions. I took, 32 fragmented substance abuse, and mental health regions and unified them into 7 behavioral health regions.
That's
and
great
we're
to hear,
putting in
Governor.
place a
Yeah.
hub and spoke model, which
That's
they will
great
be a
to hear,
part
Governor.
of.
I'm sure you're doing
But
great
again,
work. I
it's
want to
the
focus on
duplication that you
the
don't want to
questions I
lose.
have. I have limited time. I'm sorry, Governor.
Okay.
I'm sure you're doing great work on this. My question is about rural and community health centers.
Yeah.
Community health centers that receive a huge amount of federal funding, including programs that help Iowans afford medication and prescription drugs. What would that mean for?
And they're a part of our solution, and we're taking that to account. But we don't
That's
want
good to hear.
duplication
Community health
we
centers
don't
are
want
part of the
duplication of
solution.
services so
That's
that we
good to
can
hear.
get
I'm going to
those
move on,
dollars on
Governor.
the
I'm going to
ground.
move on. That's
Yep.
good to hear. Some Republicans on this committee are calling Trump's careless assault on essential federal services, including his freezing of Medicaid payment system right sizing. What is the right size for health care?
Well, that's going to vary from state to state. So, I mean,
Would you be okay with Elon Musk or Trump right-sizing Medicaid in Iowa?
I don't think we should be afraid of having the private sector step in and take a look at how we're providing these services. We can
No
learn
one's
from
just
them.
taking a look, Governor.
It's both.
Decisions are being made.
Well, they're looking at the system and making recommendations,
freezing
and
the
we
Medicaid
shouldn't be.
payment system?
We shouldn't be afraid of that. So I think that
No one, Governor, no one is afraid.
we
Governor,
had to
sorry, I'm going to
look at-
reclaim my time.
Okay, thank
No
you.
one is afraid of opening, taking a look at what's going on. But what we are afraid of is our services, the things that people depend on being ripped away from us. I'm worried about Iowans losing the Medicaid that they voted to expand. 700,000 Iowans are on Medicaid.
But that's why we made the changes that we made. That's why we realigned, we eliminated the duplication, and by doing that, it put more money into the program to actually meet the needs
Well,
of our
let's talk about what you
constituents.
did, because we were just talking about what you did. You came to office, you made some changes to help with efficiency. I respect that. But there's something that was brought up even by the chair that I want to bring up that shows the difference between what you did and what's happening right now at the federal government. You worked with the legislature and passed legislation in your state legislature to make the broadest changes you wanted to make. And that is not what's going on right now when we talk about Doge and everything else. You even mentioned at the beginning of this hearing, you were so proud to say that you did this all without massive layoffs, without forcing a large percentage of your workforce to leave because you saw them as valuable. I respect that, Governor. I respect you for that. That's not what's going on here at the federal level. But let's move on to FEMA really quickly. Okay. Trump has said that he wants FEMA to go away. He would like to see the states take care of the disasters on their own. I come from Florida. We work very closely with FEMA. Do you think most Iowans would agree with President Trump that FEMA should suddenly stop existing?
I don't think he's eliminating, and I think what I had understood was he was thinking that maybe it should go back to the states, which that's something I think we should take a look at.
Sorry, Governor, a reclaim. The president was very clear in this. He believes that the agency, FEMA, should be completely eliminated. Do you agree with that, or do you not agree with that? I mean, it's okay to disagree sometimes with,
Well, I'm not afraid to disagree. I'm just thinking,
do you disagree with FEMA, with his assessment of FEMA?
It's bureaucratic. It's a nightmare to work with. They can only do one thing at a time. I have impacted individuals. There are huge.
But do you agree with him that we should eliminate it?
We could have a whole nother hearing.
Governor, sorry, I'm
that.
going to reclaim my comment. Do you agree with him that we should eliminate FEMA? Yes or no?
I think we need to take a look at it and how those services are delivered.
But you don't think we should eliminate it?
I think we should take a look at it and see how those services are delivered.
Okay, but it sounds like you don't think we should we shouldn't get rid of it, which I agree with. In the past 10 years, your state has been granted FEMA support 10 times. President Trump in 2018 denied you a claim after flooding and horrible weather patterns that happened in Iowa. You said you were extremely disappointed and that the people of Iowa needed FEMA's help. That was your quote. And so thank you. I'm glad you're here to talk about the things you did in Iowa. I hope President Trump can look at the way you did things and working with your legislature the way it's supposed to work to make the changes instead of letting a wealthy billionaire donor go in and make the changes himself. I yield back.
Chair recognizes, yields back. Chair recognizes Mr. Frost from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. In the mission statement that you've put out for this committee, it says it's to ensure that the economy, efficiency, effectiveness, and accountability of the federal government, which I think we all agree on. We all want to combat waste, fraud, and abuse. But the thing is that y'all are all looking in the wrong places. You want to talk about making cuts to things like Medicaid, which, by the way, over 35% of all the children in this country are covered under Medicaid. Over 100,000 people in my district are covered under Medicaid. People like the grifter-in-chief Trump and President Musk are openly using their public offices to enrich themselves to the tune of billions of dollars. So if we want to look at waste, fraud, and abuse, which I'm down to do, why is there complete silence on the other side of the aisle about looking at the complete grifter that is the President of the United States and the richest man on the earth, which is looking into things like Social Security and different things like that? Why don't we investigate the real corruption?
Hold off. Point of order.
I reclaim my time.
Point of order.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Hold off. There was a point of order when you said something. Who asked for it? Mr. Higgins.
I can refer to Elon Musk as the president.
I don't believe the First Amendment has been suspended in this committee yet.
Yeah, y'all were fine with one
All
of
right,
your other members
suspend
talking
for a
about fighting
second. Let
someone
me
just a
speak
few weeks ago.
parliamentary-
Well,
Before,
did anyone on our
Mr.
side
Frost,
make a
Mr.
meme
Frost,
coin
Mr.
right after
Frost,
being elected president of the United States?
Mr. Frost, before we proceed on all of this,
Mr. Chairman?
would you like to, hold on, I'm the chairman. Recognize Mr. Frost and we'll recognize you. Would you like to revise your remark with respect to improperly identifying the President of the United States?
I'll say President Musk and grifter and cheap Trump.
All right,
Grifter and cheap
Hey,
Trump.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
wait a second.
If I wanted to challenge someone to a fight, they would know it. Thank you.
There's an extra fundraising video for her.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I don't believe that Mr. Musk is protected by the rules of the House or the committee. No,
We're looking at the disparaging the president now.
but I don't believe Mr. Frost disparaged the president. I believe he disparaged Mr. Musk.
Well, he did disparage.
Mr. Chairman, if
the
Mr.
president.
Musk
He called
actually
him the-
came here,
what-
then maybe the rules
All
of
right.
the committee
I heard
would
no
apply to
disparagement
him.
of the
But
I'll say
you
something
were
else.
not
We'll
come
save
yet.
a lot of time.
I'll say something else.
Okay, all right. We're going to let Chair recognize Mr. Frost. You still have 3:49. You're going to maybe revise the disparaging comment about the president because that's supposed to be our decorum here. And
It is supposed to be. President Musk and the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who is engaged in grifting of the American people, often use their public offices to enrich themselves. Someone on the other side was just asking, how would you
Point of
feel
order,
if you
Mr.
called
Chairman.
someone else from the
hold
other?
off, Mr. Frost. Hold off. There's a pending motion for disparaging the president. So the motion was words taken down about disparaging the president. And the chair finds the words for the gentleman from Florida are not parliamentary because they constitute personalities toward the president, which if you sit in the House floor, that's always uttered by the presiding officer on the House floor. You cannot disparage the President of the United States. So
Mr. Chairman, would you please read back to us the words that were disparaging? Because I didn't hear them.
if you're willing to request unanimous consent to withdraw the disparaging the comments about President Trump, I guess you can disparage Elon Musk if you want.
I will withdraw
cannot-
grifter in chief, and I will. I will say the president's grifting because you spent the last 2 years
All
saying
right.
President
Take
Biden was
down
corrupt.
his words.
So I can say that Trump is
motion-
grifting. What I will withdraw
member-
is calling him grifter in chief. That is what I
The
will
chair
withdraw.
sustains the point of order, and the words in question are ordered stricken from the transcript of this proceeding. So the member is barred from further participation.
feel-
I challenge the ruling of the chair.
Challenge the ruling of the chair.
I move to table.
Okay, we have a motion to challenge the ruling of the chair, and then Mr.
Motion to
Gosar made a motion to table the Mr.
Second.
Conley's motion. So there's a motion and second to table Mr. Conley's motion. The motion is not debatable. As many as are in favor of tabling signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying no.
No.
In the opinion of the chair,
Mr. Chairman,
the
I ask
ayes
for a
have it.
recorded vote.
A recorded vote is ordered. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Jordan. Mr. Jordan votes yes.
Mr. Turner. Mr. Gosar. Mr. Gosar votes yes. Ms. Fox. Mr. Grothman. Mr. Grothman votes yes. Mr. Cloud. Mr. Cloud votes yes. Mr. Palmer. Mr. Palmer votes aye. Mr. Higgins. Mr. Higgins votes yes. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Sessions votes aye. Mr. Biggs. Mr. Biggs votes aye. Miss Mace. Miss Mace votes aye. Mr. Fallon.
Aye.
Mr. Fallon votes aye. Mr. Donalds. Mr. Perry. Mr. Perry votes aye. Mr. Timmons. Mr. Timmons votes aye. Mr. Burchett. Miss Green. Miss Green votes aye. Miss Boebert. Miss Boebert votes aye. Miss Luna. Mr. Langworthy. Mr. Burleson. Mr. Burleson votes aye. Mr. Crane. Mr. Crane votes aye. Mr. Jack.
Aye.
Mr. Jack votes aye. Mr. McGuire. Mr. McGuire votes yes. Mr. Gill. Mr. Gill votes aye. Mr. Connolly.
Nay.
Mr. Connolly votes nay. Ms. Norton.
No.
Ms. Norton votes no. Mr. Lynch.
No.
Mr. Lynch votes no. Mr. Krishnamurthy.
No.
Mr. Krishnamurthy votes no. Mr. Khanna.
No.
Mr. Khanna votes no. Mr. Mfume.
No.
Mr. Mfume votes no. Miss Brown.
No.
Miss Brown votes no. Miss Stansbury.
Absolutely not.
Miss Stansbury votes no. Mr. Garcia. Mr. Garcia votes no. Mr. Frost.
No.
Mr. Frost votes no. Ms. Lee. Ms. Lee votes no. Mr. Kassar. Ms. Crockett.
Insulting people's appearance as well as trying to fight them isn't a problem.
Point of order. It's a yes or no.
But we're so
yes,
sad
No.
Yes or no? Yes or
that
no?
our
Yes or no?
little leader.
Just skip her.
We're so
Skip her.
sad.
Skip her. You're
My
skip
vote
her.
is
Go to the
no.
next one. Go to the next
The
one.
MSNBC anchor.
Go to the next one. Don't count that. Go to the next one.
Miss Randall votes no. Mr. Subramaniam. Mr. Subramaniam votes no. Miss Ansari. Mr. Bell. Mr. Bell votes no. Miss Simon. Miss Simon votes no. Mr. Min.
No.
Mr. Min votes no. Miss Presley. Miss Talib.
Nope.
Miss Talib votes no. Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman votes yes.
Mr. Chairman, how is Ms. Crockett recorded?
Let's try this one more time. How is Miss Crockett voted?
Ms. Crockett is not yet recorded.
No.
All right.
I thank my colleague.
Ms. Crockett votes no.
Mr. Chairman, how is Mr. Kassar recorded?
Mr. Kassar is not recorded. Mr. Kassar votes no. Mr. Chairman, on this vote, the ayes are 20, the nays are 19.
All right. The motion to table passes. I now recognize Mr. McGuire.
I want to say it's despicable that this committee is going to silence me for bringing
The
up
gentleman's
Frost.
words have been
Mr.
taken
Frost,
down. He is not
Mr.
permitted to
Frost.
speak for the rest of the hearing.
making millions of dollars.
Mr. Frost, Mr. Ranking Member, I'm going to have the Sergeant at Arms remove him if he doesn't refrain. All right. Chair recognizes Mr. McGuire.
Mr. Chairman,
Get out,
parliamentary
get out.
inquiry. Parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. McGuire.
Parliamentary
Thank you,
inquiry,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the year is 1969. My abuela, Zenaida, my grandma, Yaya, gets a call. And her, my mother, Maritza, my aunt, Sandra, and my grandpa, Pepe, have to go to a plane within 24 hours because they've been approved to come to the United States. They came here as refugees in 1969 during the freedom flights from Cuba for their new life in accordance with the promise of this nation. ICE arrested hundreds of U.S. citizens during Trump's first term. Again, in the last few weeks, ICE has detained Native Americans, a teenage girl from Nicaragua, Puerto Ricans, a Puerto Rican military veteran, all legal residents, but all who fit the description. I bet someone like my grandma would have fit the description too. Maybe even myself. Trump's border czar went on TV and raged about Americans studying up on their constitutional rights during interactions with ICE agents. It was one of the most despicable things I've seen. And the question is, why is he so upset that people know their constitutional rights? To the point where this administration has moved to try to intimidate members of Congress for trying to educate their constituents to know their rights. Why don't they want people to know their rights? Well, because if we know what our rights are, we'll also know when Trump tries to take them away. Mr. Beer, why are such outbursts from this administration alarming as threats to our rights and liberties?
Well, you think about what we've heard about detainer requests. I have documented over 155 U.S. citizens who've been targeted by detainer requests, and they want to say we're going to just take the discretion away from state and local governments over detainer requests, even in a case where someone is clearly a U.S. citizen. Here's my birth certificate. Doesn't matter. They're going to disregard it. And so, yes, I am well aware of the threat this administration poses to constitutional rights.
So from what we see the last few weeks, should American citizens, should people with legal permanent residence in this country be also scared of this mass deportation campaign for themselves and their own children?
Oh, absolutely. The birthright citizenship order is the most egregious, but that doesn't stop there. They want to take away people's citizenship and people's rights, regardless whether they're citizens or not.
Thank you. Mayor Wu, Boston has been named the 9th best city for quality of life in the entire country. Congratulations.
I would argue with that.
Okay. If Trump succeeds in forcing you to redirect your city's budget and personnel to help with ICE raids in this mass deportation campaign, how would that affect quality of life for your people?
First, that is against the laws in Boston and in Massachusetts, but I've heard from so many community members, including residents who are immigrants who are citizens, that they are terrified. And that means when people don't feel comfortable reaching out to call 911 when they need help, when survivors of domestic violence don't feel comfortable reporting or giving information, it makes all of us less safe, even those who aren't immigrants.
This culture of fear is bad for the safety of our people. Donald Trump's immigration raids are also traumatizing and destabilizing, of course, all Americans, but especially children and kids. Being a kid in America is hard enough. Making good grades, going through more school shooter drills and fire drills. And now Trump wants to send armed ICE agents into their classrooms to rip children from the school desk as they're trying to learn. Mayor Johnston, my colleagues are laughing about that. I don't find that funny. What would a school day be like for a kid in your city when ICE suddenly bangs down on the door and abruptly grabs their teacher or one of their friends?
Thank you, sir. I was a teacher and I was a school principal before I did this job. So I knew that our school was often the safest place that kids came. And they knew there they could learn, they could get support, they get access to services. And many of our kids come from mixed status families. They don't know their status. They don't know their mom's status or their dad's status. So I've had families before who have pulled their kids out of school, kids who were citizens, because they were worried that somehow their kids were in danger because they didn't know who was being taken. And so for us, the fastest way to make a city unsafe is to have kids not feel safe in their own schools.
See, they want everybody to live in fear of undocumented people. That is what they want to do. But I'll tell you, when I'm in my district and I do roundtables, I've done them with kids in elementary school, and I ask them what they want us to do. They want us to ban assault weapons. They say what they're actually scared of is being shot to death and dying in their schools. And because of actions that the Democratic administration took, the Biden administration with Congress, gun violence has gone down in Denver, 24%, 25% in Chicago, 40% down homicides in Boston. This works. Gun violence went up 45% under Trump. So when they're in charge, more people die. When they're in charge, we are actually less safe. And I think that's an important thing that we all have to keep in mind as they try to scare us in terms of immigrants who are living in this country. Thank you, and I yield back.
Chair,
That help us save billions of dollars every year, and I thank you for that work and thank your staff for that work. The GAO couldn't be more different than Trump and Elon Musk's Doge. Trump and Musk want to rip away the vital services that millions of Americans depend on. He's doing it just to find money to give tax cuts to the richest people in this country and largest corporations in this country, many of whom pay a less effective tax rate than a lot of the teachers in my district. Doge will save nothing for the American people while making everything worse for us, while trying to find room to give tax cuts to the richest people in this country. Shamefully, those cuts include cuts to our military veterans, including the nearly 32,000 veterans that I proudly represent. And I take this subject personally because I'm the son of a veteran. I come from an Air Force family. How my family's been there for so long, they were in it when it was the Army Air Corps. And so I take this very personally. Mr. Dodaro, VA healthcare is on the GAO's high-risk list. How have staffing challenges at the VA contributed to this?
And I'll ask Ms. Farb to come up, but they've contributed to it very significantly. Jess?
I would say, you know, we talked about this a little bit earlier in terms of scheduling appointments for veterans, both in the VA facilities and in the community, providing treatments that are needed and timely care, which VA has had problems with in the past, as we all know. So not having the staff that they need to kind of continue on the path to making sure that veterans get timely access to quality
So a
care.
staff capacity issue, not enough.
Yes. Well, not a right type. I mean, I'm very concerned about the mental health area. And they don't have enough behavioral mental health people, particularly for rural veterans.
100%.
And the suicide prevention areas is another area. You know, the last I checked, there were 17 veterans a day die by suicide. It's a national disgrace, in my opinion, that we're not better supporting these people, which is why I added it to the high-risk list. And so they need doctors, nurses, they need the proper care. And also the proper handoff if they go to the community care process as well. So it's an issue that we need to be very careful on how we handle and make sure it's done properly.
I 100% agree with you. I was actually about to ask you about the VA's need to hire more psychiatrists and psychologists, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Right. You know, last week I held a veterans town hall in my district at my local VA. There were a few hundred people that showed up. Folks came very confused, very angry, and very scared. They asked questions. I have some of them down. They asked, will I lose my benefits? Who staffs Doge, and what are they doing with my personal medical information? Will budget cuts mean that I'll have longer wait times? Why is my health care being sacrificed to politics? These are the questions people ask me, my constituents, veterans ask me. Among the 18 inspectors general that Donald Trump illegally fired, which, by the way, Congress was supposed to be notified before an IG is fired like that. Maybe but 2 hours ago, Republicans in this committee took a vote to silence me because I said Donald Trump was engaging in grifting. But complete crickets when he breaks the law and completely circumvents Congress and doesn't tell us about the firing of 18 inspectors general. How will the firing of the inspector general of the VA make it harder to address the issues that my constituents, the veterans in my district raised?
I responded earlier that I thought it was unfortunate those IGs were fired. I think we lost a lot of institutional and expertise in that area. We've worked very closely with Mike Missel over the years and the other IGs. Now, they have a very talented group of people. They'll soldier on, and they'll continue to do the job, but it was unfortunate. And, you know, I had recommended to the Congress to make the change to require the 30-day notice and to give for cause, because the inspector generals do report to the Congress as well as to the head of the agency. It's a very unique responsibility, and Congress should have the opportunity to engage in a dialogue on that. I don't dispute the president's authority to fire them, but how it's done and follow the proper procedures, I believe, is important.
Thank you. The Orlando VA healthcare system already suffers from critical staffing shortages. I mean, the people there, who a large percentage of them are veterans themselves, are doing a great job. They're doing what they need to do, but they don't have the staff capacity necessary to be able to meet the demand, to be able to live up to our promise to people who put their lives on the line for the safety and security of this country. And that's something I take very seriously. It's something that a lot of my Republican colleagues used to take very seriously, but times change. Thank you so much, and I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Gill from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding this hearing today. I'd like to start by addressing a few of the concerns that our colleagues have had on the other side of the aisle about the Doge movement and Elon Musk in particular. And first, they're telling us that what Doge and Elon Musk are doing by firing federal workers, many of whom aren't.
Mr. Frost.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, thank you so much for being here today. You know, when I was back home in the district over the weekend, everywhere I went, the grocery store, walking around the park, doing anything, people were coming up to me asking about Social Security. And I think a lot of people are worried and scared right now. I think part of it has to do with a lot of the mis and disinformation that's going around. I mean, we've heard this constant lie from Elon Musk that tens of millions of dead people are getting Social Security paychecks. Claiming fraud on Social Security, I think, is one way that folks are going to justify cutting it, pocketing the benefits for billionaires, privatizing it. Ms. Koselleck, Elon Musk is now calling Social Security a Ponzi scheme. How concerned are you that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme?
I don't think we have seen indications in our work that that is the case.
Musk is calling it a Ponzi scheme as an excuse to destroy it, in my opinion. Americans earn Social Security through years of hard work, and it's a good investment. It could be a better investment for black men, because we're pretty much donors because we live less time, but that's another conversation for another time. It's one of the most popular government services, and most people support more funding for Social Security, not less. Ms. Wagner, you know, people want shorter wait times, payments processed more quickly, but at the same time, the administration wants to cut 7,000 employees from the administration. Yesterday, somebody from my office called Social Security, 30 days to process something on retirement, 30 days on Medicaid, 230 days as it relates to disability. What would be the effects of these cuts to the Social Security Administration right now?
When staff shrinks, there are fewer people to take appointments, to answer phones, to process applications for different benefits, and that hurts people nationwide. And in addition to their own staff, Social Security Administration funds state disability determination service employees who decide whether applicants' disabilities are severe enough to qualify for benefits. Their processing time was already at a record high of 7 months, and we expect cuts will have further impact. In addition, 7 in 10 of Social Security staff do serve the public directly. So this will have a major impact on customer service.
Thank you. It's not just, you know, billionaires like Elon Musk who are going around attacking it. My own Florida Senator Rick Scott, the richest person in Congress, which on the topic of fraud, you know, my senator made history. He's the man responsible for the largest Medicare fraud in the history of this country, $1.7 billion. He says that Republicans are, quote, going to have to cut Social Security, end quote. Why are they doing this? Well, to take money from Social Security to use it for tax cuts for people who are too rich to need it. House Republicans plan to make $880 billion in cuts to health care. This means cuts to Medicaid and Medicare, too. Ms. Wagner, 4 in 8 American children are Medicaid recipients, including over 60,000 people in my district alone. For an Orlando family currently receiving Medicaid, what could be the financial fallout from losing access to Medicaid?
Well, first, when states are forced to cut back on funding, they are going to cut back on who's eligible and the benefits they receive. But cuts will have broader impacts than just those who are no longer eligible. They will directly or indirectly affect the amount of funds available for state staff, for IT systems that support Medicaid, and they'll probably lead to more improper payments and reduced program integrity. And it will impact people whose eligibility isn't cut. Longer call center wait times, more errors, uncertainty, stress, and possibly not being able to get approved for benefits or losing coverage at renewal, even though they remain eligible.
Thank you. You know, before coming to Congress, I worked in organizations, and one of the proudest things I did was work at March for Our Lives. It came after the shooting that happened in Parkland. I traveled this country speaking with people that disagreed with me on the issue of gun violence, but it made me a better person. And something I learned during my travels is, in order to speak about something in a bipartisan way, I think it's really important to make sure people are coming at this on the right foot, in good faith. And I'm all for the modernization of our government. I think it's really important, and I say that as the youngest person in the United States Congress. I think it is very important. But when I see the people leading the effort, like Elon Musk, call something like Social Security a Ponzi scheme, and I hear crickets on the other side of the aisle, I have a really hard time taking any of this seriously when I go home and I have people coming up to me in the grocery store who are living paycheck to paycheck, asking me, what are you going to do to protect Social Security? So thank you so much, and I yield back.
So with that, let me turn it over to Maxwell.
Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate it. In January, Donald Trump and House Republicans inherited a growing economy with inflation coming down. I remember during the election, right after Donald Trump won, I was having a discussion with some friends, and I said, it's going to be kind of similar to what happened his first term. He's going to come into a growing economy and then take credit for it 6 months in. But this guy is so incompetent, and he's failing so much that he took that growing economy and inflation coming down and actually completely reversed it. And now people are using the R word. We hope we don't go into a recession. We hope that doesn't happen to American people. But we got to be clear that Donald Trump's reckless policies, all in service of billionaires, are really harming working families, from the Trump tariffs to the cuts to essential programs that people have earned. He has completely turned around the ship in a really bad way. The economic announcement that Donald Trump has made has plunged the stock markets into a free fall, costing jobs and wiping out retirement savings. And at the same time, he's trying to ask all these government workers to retire. They're looking at their 401ks, they're looking at the stock market at the same time as he's trying to make that proposition. And at the same time that this is going on, where's Donald Trump? He's outside turning the south lawn of the White House into a commercial for Tesla. You know, a few weeks ago, I got my words taken down in the Oversight Committee for calling Trump a grifter in chief. And a week later, he does something that proves me right in saying that, and proves all of us right in saying how corrupt he is and this administration is, that he would, in front of the White House, in front of the executive, do a commercial for Elon Musk. Why? It's because he cares more about corrupt billionaires like Elon than he does about the American people. Amid this chaos, Democrats have a clear message. We're fighting for and with working people. When I went home this weekend, everywhere I went to the grocery store, I had people come up to me asking me, is my Social Security going to be okay? I did a town hall at the VA with Darren Soto. I had a guy come up to me, multiple, who said, I voted for Donald Trump. I'm a veteran. I'm very worried about my benefits. I'm very worried about what's going to happen here at the VA. You know, a lot of my colleagues keep saying, the people spoke, so I guess we can cut Medicaid, we can cut Social Security, without realizing that the people are speaking. And that's part of the reason why they've decided to cancel all their town halls, because they don't like what the people are saying. The people don't want these cuts to these programs that they've earned. And this is our winning message, talking about the fact that the voters are with us, and the work now is to ensure that the voters are being heard. So thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Frost.
Thank you. So I oppose the underlying bill, and I support Representative Simon's amendment. And I agree with what was just said. If you are against cutting these programs, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, you should support this amendment. But I also want to say something else. I find it astonishing that this committee is focused on passing legislation that would give the Trump administration more power just 24 hours after we learned that members of this administration, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, Vice President J.D. Vance, and other top decision makers are responsible for one of the greatest national security failures of this century. It is our most basic duty as the Committee on Oversight to find out how this could have happened and what damage could have been done and has been done to our national security. And as I claim time to debate on this bill, it is relevant to raise the question of why the Republican sponsor considers this issue more important than getting to the bottom of this, quote, Houthi PC small group, end quote, signal chat, where highly sensitive information about a military operation prior to its being carried out was shared on an unofficial and unsecured channel with a private citizen. Yesterday, Atlantic editor Jeffrey Goldberg published the astonishing story of how he was added to a signal chat by National Security Advisor Mike Waltz that included the Secretary of Defense, Vice President, and 16 others, most of whom have yet to be identified. The White House has already acknowledged the legitimacy of this conversation. Mr. Chair, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record this Atlantic article titled, "The Trump Administration Accidentally Texted Me Its War Plans."
Without objection, so ordered.
Over the course of several days, this chat openly discussed military operations against the Houthis in Yemen, putting our service members at risk and putting our country at risk. This is the Oversight Committee. We need to conduct oversight. If a Democratic administration committed such a colossal and possibly criminal failure of national security, I know that my fellow Democrats and I on this committee would join Republicans in investigating it because it makes our country less safe. We need to have Secretary of Defense Hegseth in these chairs under oath, opening up an immediate investigation to answer these following obvious questions. Why was Signal being used for this conversation? Is Signal or other unofficial unsecured channels being used for other national security conversations? Is it DOD, NSA, or White House policy to use Signal for official business? Whose policy is it? Were laws broken through the use of Signal to discuss these future military operations, and if so, which ones? What other Signal channels discussing classified information exist? The 18 names in this chat mostly appear as just initials. Who are these people, and do they all have proper security clearance to discuss this information? It was reported that the messages in this group were set to an auto-delete after 8 days. Was that a Department of Defense policy? Did someone in the Signal group make that decision on their own? What operational details were discussed? And could operational security be compromised if an enemy actor has access to the Signal chat? Secretary of Defense Hegseth was asked if he participated in the Signal group chat, and instead of giving a straight answer, he verbally attacked the journalist asking the question. He should be answering those questions here today under oath. Mr. Chairman, this is an extreme breach of trust, a violation of the law that demands congressional oversight. Later this afternoon, Ranking Member Connolly and I will be sending a letter that demands that all departments implicated in this confounding episode preserve all related documents and communications, including the Signal chats. I invite all my colleagues on this committee, Democrats and Republicans, to join us in this effort. Mr. Comer, I hope you will fulfill your commitment to conducting serious congressional oversight and sign this letter. I yield back.
Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I can't believe the Republican argument is just trust us. At this point, I'd like to yield 4 minutes to the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Frost.
Gentleman is recognized for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a moment I'm never going to forget, because tonight hundreds of Republican members of Congress are wanting to line up to vote for the biggest transfer of wealth from the working poor and the working class to billionaires and mega corporations that we've seen in this country's history. This is a deep moment of betrayal, a complete absence of loyalty to the people that we represent, and an abandonment of the values of hard work and dignified life. Mr. Speaker, I'm 28 years old. My generation already expects that we'll never be able to afford a home, to get out of debt, to retire, to live comfortably. And no, it's not because we've lived beyond our means, but it's because we've been denied the means to live. Donald Trump and congressional Republicans are making it worse, gutting Medicaid and food assistance to give tax cuts to billionaires and special interests. And all of the things that you could give tax breaks for, this bill will cut taxes on silencers for guns. And for those who don't know, gun silencers can be attached to a gun to muffle the sound of a gunshot. And I'm going to wait till the House is in order, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman's correct. The House is not in order. Gentleman may continue.
In mass shootings, these silencers make it harder to identify and respond to the source of the gunshots. Earlier, I put forth an amendment to strip this tax cut for the gun lobby, and House Republicans wouldn't even let it come up for a vote. And then the Republicans made the bill worse in their manager's amendment by making silencers completely unregulated. In 2023 alone, the ATF recovered over 400 silencers from violent crime scenes. For this reason, silencers have been highly regulated for nearly 100 years. In May of 2019, the Virginia Beach shooter attached a silencer to his .45 caliber handgun that he used to kill 12 people on 3 floors of a city building. Survivors of the attack said they weren't even aware a mass shooting was going on because of the silencer. My question is, why did this get added to the bill just a couple hours ago? Which congressional Republican just couldn't stand to vote for the horrible bill until it promised even more death to people? And I will yield to hear a name.
Mr. Speaker.
I'll yield just to hear a name.
The gentleman will state his point of order.
Mr. Speaker, this is supposed to be a challenge because the rule says that we've waived earmarks, but the gentleman is not talking about earmarks. He's talking about process that he doesn't like. He's talking about parts of the bill he doesn't like, but he has not mentioned any specific earmark. Even the gentleman who spoke before him, the gentleman from Massachusetts, only talked in general terms about things that were general policy, not earmarks. So I submit, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, that the gentleman is not in order in giving remarks that are not pertinent.
The gentleman from Virginia has not stated a point of order.
I'm sorry?
I reclaim my time. I will yield just to hear the name of the Republican that couldn't vote for this bill.
House will be in order. The gentleman from Virginia has not stated a point of order. The gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Thank you. I am just curious on which Republican couldn't vote for the bill until we completely deregulated silencers. My generation isn't just defined by a bleak financial future. We're also defined as the mass shooting generation. We've done more active shooter drills than fire drills. We've grown up watching classes of our students die a brutal death, helpless inside classrooms, on our blocks, in our churches, again and again and again and again. And so, America, we got to be very clear and truthful about this budget. Laws for gun manufacturers to make more money off of the death of children and our people? Yes. Food for children to eat? No. Healthcare for seniors, disabled Americans, and millions more? No. Resources to help working families fight to ends meet? No. This is why they've been told to not host any town halls back in their districts. That's why this debate is happening in the middle of the night. It's nothing short of theft. And congressional Republicans are really helping me understand why half of this country doesn't vote. It's because they'll look people in the eyes and make promises only to come here in the middle of the night to advance a bill that will take away the benefits that they have earned. Republicans would have us believe that the person most likely to steal from you is a person in a hoodie, a black person in a hoodie, or an immigrant with tattoos, and this is to distract.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman's recognized for an additional minute.
This is to distract from the fact that at least here tonight, the people stealing from Americans are not folks with tattoos and hoodies. It's people wearing suits and ties and congressional pins sitting in this Capitol right now. Not in some random alley wrapped in darkness, but in the United States Congress wrapped in the flag. It is disgusting, and we will never forget this. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. Gentlelady from Indiana is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Griffith.
Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, as I said in the point of order, which I didn't have the rule at hand, but it's 17(1)B, but as I said then, if they want to complain about they didn't like the process, if they don't like the bill, if there's a piece of the bill they don't like, save that for the debate on the bill itself. But instead, they've raised a parliamentary procedure to claim that the rule is not proper, assuming or claiming that there are earmarks. But I would submit, Mr. Speaker, that they have not mentioned an earmark yet. I've been listening. I've been wondering where it was because I've read the bill and I've read the manager's amendment. And with the manager's amendment, I see no earmarks in the bill. And they haven't brought it up, and I submit it's because they can't. And the proper ruling would be to rule that there aren't any earmarks. I understand we might have to take a vote, but let's try to get our processes right, Mr. Speaker. I would submit to everybody we ought to get the process right, and I yield back.
Yields back. Gentlelady from Indiana. Gentleman is recognized for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a moment I'm never going to forget because tonight hundreds of Republican members of Congress are wanting to line up to vote for the biggest transfer of wealth from the working poor and the working class to billionaires and mega corporations that we've seen in this country's history. This is a deep moment of betrayal, a complete absence of loyalty to the people that we represent, and an abandonment of the values of hard work and dignified life. Mr. Speaker, I'm 28 years old. My generation already expects that we'll never be able to afford a home, to get out of debt, to retire, to live comfortably. And no, it's not because we've lived beyond our means, but it's because we've been denied the means to live. Donald Trump and congressional Republicans are making it worse, gutting Medicaid and food assistance to give tax cuts to billionaires and special interests. And all of the things that you could give tax breaks for, this bill will cut taxes on silencers for guns. And for those who don't know, gun silencers can be attached to a gun to muffle the sound of a gunshot. And I'm going to wait till the House is in order, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman's correct. The House is not in order. Gentleman may continue.
In mass shootings, these silencers make it harder to identify and respond to the source of the gunshots. Earlier, I put forth an amendment to strip this tax cut for the gun lobby, and House Republicans wouldn't even let it come up for a vote. And then the Republicans made the bill worse in their manager's amendment by making silencers completely unregulated. In 2023 alone, the ATF recovered over 400 silencers from violent crime scenes. For this reason, silencers have been highly regulated for nearly 100 years. In May of 2019, the Virginia Beach shooter attached a silencer to his .45 caliber handgun that he used to kill 12 people on 3 floors of a city building. Survivors of the attack said they weren't even aware a mass shooting was going on because of the silencer. My question is, why did this get added to the bill just a couple hours ago? Which congressional Republican just couldn't stand to vote for the horrible bill until it promised even more death to people? And I will yield to hear a name.
Mr. Speaker.
I'll yield just to hear a name.
The gentleman will state his point of order.
Mr. Speaker, this is supposed to be a challenge because the rule says that we've waived earmarks, but the gentleman is not talking about earmarks. He's talking about process that he doesn't like. He's talking about parts of the bill he doesn't like, but he has not mentioned any specific earmark. Even the gentleman who spoke before him, the gentleman from Massachusetts, only talked in general terms about things that were general policy, not earmarks. So I submit, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, that the gentleman is not in order in giving remarks that are not pertinent.
The gentleman from Virginia has not stated a point of order.
I'm sorry?
I reclaim my time. I will yield just to hear the name of the Republican that couldn't vote for this bill.
Be in order. The gentleman from Virginia has not stated a point of order. The gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Thank you. I am just curious on which Republican couldn't vote for the bill until we completely deregulated silencers. My generation isn't just defined by a bleak financial future. We're also defined as the mass shooting generation. We've done more active shooter drills than fire drills. We've grown up watching classes of our students die a brutal death, helpless inside classrooms, on our blocks, in our churches, again and again and again and again. And so, America, we got to be very clear and truthful about this budget. Laws for gun manufacturers to make more money off of the death of children and our people? Yes. Food for children to eat? No. Health care for seniors, disabled Americans, and millions more? No. Resources to help working families fight to ends meet? No. This is why they've been told to not host any town halls back in their districts. That's why this debate is happening in the middle of the night. It's nothing short of theft. And congressional Republicans are really helping me understand why half of this country doesn't vote. It's because they'll look people in the eyes and make promises only to come here in the middle of the night to advance a bill that will take away the benefits that they have earned. Republicans would have us believe that the person most likely to steal from you is a person in a hoodie, a black person in a hoodie, or an immigrant with tattoos, and this is to distract.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman's recognized for an additional minute.
This is to distract from the fact that at least here tonight, the people stealing from Americans are not folks with tattoos and hoodies. It's people wearing suits and ties and congressional pins sitting in this Capitol right now. Not in some random alley wrapped in darkness, but in the United States Congress wrapped in the flag. It is disgusting, and we will never forget this. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. Gentlelady from Indiana is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Griffith.
Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, as I said in the point of order, which I didn't have the rule at hand, but it's 17(1)B, but as I said then, if they want to complain about they didn't like the process, if they don't like the bill, if there's a piece of the bill they don't like, save that for the debate on the bill itself. But instead, they've raised a parliamentary procedure to claim that the rule is not proper, assuming or claiming that there are earmarks. But I would submit, Mr. Speaker, that they have not mentioned an earmark yet. I've been listening. I've been wondering where it was because I've read the bill and I've read the manager's amendment. And with the manager's amendment, I see no earmarks in the bill. And they haven't brought it up, and I submit it's because they can't. And the proper ruling would be to rule that there aren't any earmarks. I understand we might have to take a vote, but let's try to get our processes right, Mr. Speaker. I would submit to everybody we ought to get the process right, and I yield back.
Yields back. Gentlelady from Indiana.
I reserve.
Reserves. Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Does the gentlelady have any more speakers?
We have one more speaker, Mr. Speaker.
I'll reserve them.
Oh.
Gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. Gentlelady from Indiana is recognized.
Oh, I reserve. I'm prepared to close.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, this is everything that people hate about Washington. This bill is a tax scam that steals from the American people, and it is filled with earmarks. Earmarks to the gun lobby, earmarks to polluters to be able to exploit land, earmarks to every big donor that gives to the Republican Congressional Campaign Committee. I mean, this is really about corruption. And this bill that we are trying to bring to the floor steals from regular people, takes away people's food benefits, throws people off of health care, and gives a big fat tax break to millionaires and billionaires. That is what their priorities are all about. So I would urge Democrats and Republicans who care about the integrity of this institution to vote no on considering the rule and to block this terrible tax scam from coming to the floor today. We can do a hell of a lot better. This is a disgrace. With that, I yield back, and I urge a no vote.
Gentleman yields back. The gentlelady from Indiana is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, this is just a dilatory tactic by my colleagues across the aisle. We must continue so the House can begin consideration of this historic legislation and deliver on President Trump's agenda. I urge members to vote yes on the question, and I yield back the balance of my time.
All time for debate has expired. The question is, will the House now consider the resolution? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I ask for the yeas and nays.
The gentlelady's time's expired. I now recognize Mr. Frost from Florida.
Thank you, Chair. The first few months of the Trump administration have been unhinged. At several events in my district, I've heard from outraged constituents. People, as I've traveled across the country, I've heard the same from people in many different districts. And there's two common themes I keep hearing about. Number one, people that are angry at the administration's attempts to degrade vital services like Social Security, Medicaid, FEMA, and the VA. And also fear about what Elon Musk and folks at Doge have done and could be doing with the data of American citizens and the American people, things like health records, banking information, and Social Security numbers. These conversations are really just the tip of the iceberg. Hundreds of constituents have also called into my office with the same fear that their private information is falling into the wrong hands. Mr. Schneider, reporting in May revealed that Doge is now feeding unknown amounts and unknown types of sensitive government data into Grok, the AI program owned by Elon Musk. I find this extremely concerning. What are the potential harms that individuals now face from Doge doing something like this?
Well, we don't know. So it's two things I would worry about: feeding it to Grok and also giving it to Palantir to train their models. So once it's now left the government, it's going to different companies for different things. And I think that the fact that we don't know what the data is, what's being done to it, how it's being used, how it's being protected, is a grave danger. Right? We secure that data because it is important, and now it is somewhere else also. Also, we don't know the accuracy. I haven't talked about it. I would worry about data poisoning. If you were an American adversary, one of the things you might want to do is go to that ill-protected data and change stuff, because now the model is being trained on false data, and we've talked a little bit about hallucinations and making bad decisions.
In what way could the dumping of Americans' private data into personal and corporate AI programs create conflicts of interest or create personal enrichment for certain people?
Well, I mean, data is power. And whoever has the data has the power. And for us to give that data to corporations, really with not even charging them for it, gives them an enormous amount of power. How they can use that is going to depend on what they're doing and future technologies are going to make different things possible, but think of it broadly as it increases the power of those who have the data.
And it's important for everyone to remember that we've seen many different conflicts of interest throughout this administration. We've also seen Trump, Musk, and other folks dismantle data privacy protections and ignore law after law. Since we can't rely on the president or his administration to obey the law, what other safeguards currently exist to keep our data safe?
That's all you got. I mean, you as a citizen, I mean, my data that is at the IRS, I can do nothing about it, right? I am relying on you, the government, to protect my data. If you're not doing that writ large, I'm kind of screwed.
For 130 days, we've seen Musk and other actors lurk inside our most sensitive databases, grabbing whatever private data they want with zero to little oversight, especially no oversight from the United States Congress, including Republican members of Congress as well. How can we as the Oversight Committee assess the damage that's been done and hold people accountable?
I think you actually have to do the work. There's an enormous amount of investigation has to happen. We don't know what data was taken. We don't know where it went. We don't know where it is. And that's going to be work figuring it out. But I think it's work that has to be done because I think the first step to fixing the problem is understanding what it is. I mean, we can stop the flow. You can close down the loopholes. You can get these people out of the organizations. You can start protecting the data. But now the data's gone. You have to figure out where it is, who has it, and then take it back.
Interestingly enough, you brought up the word accountability, which is really important. When the administration changed over from Democrat to Republican, I think little things matter. I think words matter, and there's a word that changed in the name of this committee. The word accountability used to be in the name of this committee, and they changed it from government accountability to government reform. It seems like a lot of my Republican colleagues have no interest in holding this administration accountable for the misuse of data, and Congress has a horrible record in being able to legislate as it relates to technology. I think there's huge educational barriers. We bury our heads in the sand until the problem gets out of hand, and then someone comes up with a grand solution of banning it. This is what happened with social media, and unfortunately what I think might also happen with AI unless we get our stuff together here. Thank you. I yield back.
Control have to deal with other crimes that they're solving.
And apologies, I just have 10 seconds left. But when they say illegal versus legal immigration, they are trying to end legal status in the United States as well. Correct, Governor Pritzker, with the end of TPS and making people undocumented by removing legal status, ending legal status, and then having the audacity to call them illegal when they were here documented, correct?
Taking students' visas away from people, taking their legal right to be in the United States away from them when they've been granted maybe years earlier to stay.
So I don't want to hear about how this is about illegal versus legal immigration. They are attacking legal status and removing legal status. The Republican majority is anti-legal immigration in the United States. And I want to make that very clear, and I yield back.
Chair now recognizes
Mr. Chair, unanimous consent request.
Mr. Frost.
Unanimous consent request into the record a NBC article, Senator Alex Padilla removed from news conference with Homeland Security Secretary Noem.
All right, without objection to order.
I have another one, the Hill article, Padilla forcibly removed from Noem press conference.
Without objection to order.
And I have a third one, Axios, Democratic Senator forcibly removed from DHS press conference.
Without objection to order.
Mr. Chair, also, we were just talking about this. I want to know if you can commit to working with us so we can subpoena.
You're out of order. Chair recognizes
I have
Ms.
a point
Green.
I have a point of order.
No.
I have a point of order.
State your point.
We need to subpoena.
That's not
Secretary
a point of order.
Noem.
Chair recognizes
We
Ms.
just talked
Green.
about this
That's
earlier.
not a point.
We talked
Thank
about
you, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time.
To the ground.
Reclaiming my time.
And handcuffed in his own damn
Oh, Democrats can't follow the rules. Can't follow the law. Can't follow the rules. Can't follow the law.
We need to subpoena Kristi Noem. It's
Chair
her
recognizes
staff,
Ms. Green.
DHS federal
There's a
officers
privilege of
that
the
threw a
majority,
US
and that
senator
means
to the
we're in
ground.
charge,
Just
not
this
your
morning we were
side.
talking about this
Because
happening to
you
governors.
lost the
All right,
election.
Ms. Green, we're going to start the
Because
clock.
you supported the
anything to say about
invasion
that?
of our
Mr. Frost.
country.
All right.
It's my time.
Will you
Hold it.
commit on the record
Stop
to
the
work
clock.
My
on
time.
subpoena
Thank you,
Kristi
Mr.
Noem?
Chairman. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
You're out of order. Chair recognizes
Will
Ms.
you
Green.
commit on the record
you.
to subpoenaing Kristi Noem because a U.S. senator was just thrown to the ground and detained in his own
Democrats
state?
can't follow the rules.
out of
Can't
order.
follow the law.
Will you
Can't
commit-
follow the
Shut
rules.
up. Just shut up.
No, you don't. No, you're not going to tell me to shut up.
How do you get him in order? You're running for this.
Not like that.
He has been out of order 6 times. He's trying to get on MSNBC. You probably knocked.
I get it.
Somebody off
I don't have any problem
MSNBC to
getting
get
on
on there.
MSNBC. That's not what
Green,
it's about.
He's been arrested as a former Antifa member, right?
Back to order, Miss Green. Go.
He's a
go.
former Antifa
Ms.
member.
Green,
Mr.
you're recognized.
Chairman,
You got
no
it.
surprise.
Who's a former Antifa member? Me?
Yeah, you.
I asked that these words be taken down.
No, Miss Green.
Thank you.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion.
Governor
Ms.
Hochul,
Green is recognized.
Governor
I asked that
Hochul,
these
you
words be taken
stated
down.
that you're a proud Democrat, proud registered
All right,
Democrat.
we got to suspend. There's been a parliamentary move. They said they weren't going to do that. What's the?
Just ask her to strike what she said.
Okay. Suspend for 2 minutes. And while we're suspending, we have votes in about 7 minutes. We're going to try to get 3 more questioners in, then we'll break for, I think there are 4 votes, and we'll come back right after the last vote. We don't have that many more questioners, so.
Let's see if that's the whole thing then.
Say, Mr. Chairman, I move to revise my remarks and say that Congressman Frost was arrested at a rally, but not for being a member of Antifa.
What was he pushing for? Did he want to be close to that?
Sure.
Because with so many people across our country.
So you can say, I move to revise my remarks. Mr. Frost was arrested at a rally for moving to have illegals votes. But not member of Antifa or something like that. If that works.
What do I want to do?
Move to revise your remarks and say, Mr. Frost was arrested at a rally, but not as a member of Antifa.
Okay. Affiliated permitted demonstration. Mr. Chairman, I move to revise my remarks. Congressman Frost was arrested in 2021 at a voting rights rally.
Okay. Without objection?
Proudly.
All right.
Yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Frost from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All over the country, people are protesting nonviolently President Trump's treatment of immigrants, and they are right to. And I think it's important that we are clear as leaders about what's going on in this country right now. There is no mass deportation campaign. Deportation is a process that is not being followed right now. What's going on is people are being snatched up in the middle of the streets, trafficked, kidnapped in the middle of the streets, trafficked to other countries without due process. Trump is taking blatantly illegal and inhumane actions to stoke protests and then escalating things from there. Over the weekend, he sent the U.S. troops to California. This is dangerous. First, the California National Guard without the governor's support, and now the Marines. The Marines are trained to fight and win wars, not to de-escalate a protest in the heart of an American city. Members of our armed services have sworn an oath to the Constitution. They didn't swear an oath to Donald Trump, and they're not his personal army. And so in the face of a wannabe dictator, we have to have strong opposition. First, the Trump administration says they're going to arrest judges. Then they arrested a judge. Then they talk about arresting elected officials. Then a mayor gets arrested. Then they said they'd arrest a member of Congress, and one has been indicted. Democratic member of Congress has been indicted. And now we have Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, who's threatened to arrest the California governor. And I don't think we should take this as an empty threat. Why is Trump now saying he wants to arrest governors? It's because he knows that some of the people who are going to be the greatest opposition to his lawlessness are Democratic governors standing up for their people. And so I'm just curious to hear from our three governors here today, because these things can be put forth as hypotheticals, but they're not hypotheticals. Elected officials are being arrested. This is happening. The DOJ is being weaponized against us. So if federal agents were to come to your door, to the governor's mansion, approach your security staff to arrest you, you have Tom Homan on the news saying, I want to arrest Governor Hochul, Governor Pritzker, Governor Walz. What do you do? What do you say? I'm just curious. Governor Hochul, if you can start.
If Tom Homan comes to Albany to arrest me, I'll say, go for it. You can't intimidate a governor. What is this country coming to? When people can threaten us on social media and on cable news and try to stop us from doing our jobs, we're here on the front lines every day, fighting to defend our rights, our values, and the public safety of our residents. And so anything threatening our responsibility is an assault on our democracy, nothing short of that.
Thank you, Congressman. Let me begin by saying I have the highest duty to protect the people of my state. And indeed, if Tom Homan were to come to try to arrest us, I can say, first of all, that he can try. I can also tell you that I will stand in the way of Tom Homan going after people who don't deserve to be frightened in their communities, who don't deserve to be threatened, terrorized. I would rather that he came and arrested me than do that to the people of my state.
Well, thank you, Congressman. And I was just sitting here listening today again. There's many of you in here, friends on both sides of the aisle that I served here. The job of governor is very different than the job you're doing, but we need you. We need to work together. No one here wants to hear these horrific stories, but we have a job to do on limited resources. And equating that not doing ICE's job means we're not cooperating, we're patrolling our highways. I'm proud that Minnesota's a state third lowest in traffic deaths. If we start doing all the things at ICE, and nothing we do precludes them from doing their job. And so threatening and political, and I did not realize, I guess, I watch it, I didn't realize how much animosity there's here. We have a responsibility to the American public to work together, and I think threatening arrest on elected officials, Congressman, it doesn't help any of us. Governor Pritzker's right. Our citizens are scared and angry, and it's not necessary. We can fix this with a bipartisan border bill. Help us out.
Thank you, Governor. I want to end by saying former Governor and now Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem just last year said that federalizing the National Guard would be a direct attack on states' rights. And now she's cheering it on. President Trump has consolidated power so much in his own party, there's little to no, pretty much zero, opposition left to his lawlessness. We hear it in this room right now. And the last thing I want to say, too, is what's going on right now is not just a distraction from the fact that they want to pass a massive tax break for the richest Americans and take away services and things from working families, but it's to enable it. These aren't two different stories, because the only way you rip away health care from 15 million Americans in this country and not feel like you have to fear for your job or that you're going to be protested every day is by scaring the people and suppressing their First Amendment right. What's going on in Los Angeles and what Donald Trump wants to do around the nation is directly connected to the fact that he's going to take away health care from all of these people, 15 million Americans, to benefit people like him and his donors. And it's shameful. These aren't two different things. It's the same thing. I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Higgins from Louisiana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I think that the theme that we are seeing is, you said it,
a right to life versus their desire for profit. You just described that, and in this bill, that's what we see over and over again, the right to life, because you need the health insurance, versus the right for profit.
Yeah, see, they say they're pro-life because they want the baby to be born, go to school, and get shot in the school. Die in the school, die on the streets. No, that is what they say.
I move to strike his
I'm not going
words.
over the cliff.
You've gone over. We were going to be quiet, but you've gone over now.
You didn't use any.
I meant every word.
We are going to strike your words. But on the other hand, it might be good to leave your words. It might be good to leave your words. Because that's how you feel. But you are not going to come into this room and impugn our integrity. You will not. We are pro-life people from conception to natural death. Most of us are. And don't you come in here and say, we want to preserve life so people can get shot.
That's what I've seen.
Are you through, Ms. Ledger-Fernandez? I hope so.
Well, Madam Chair, I want to thank all of our witnesses for coming in and laying out the distinct perspectives and approaches between how we believe this bill will affect Americans, their ability to get health insurance, which is essential to their ability to both live a healthy life and to continue to live. And with that, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I did make a motion that has not been acted on. If you would like for me to withdraw that motion, I will withdraw it.
Mr. Scott, I think it's better to leave those words in the
That's fine.
in the
Let's let
record
them know how they feel.
than
You
to
did not make a
take
proper
them out.
motion, just for the record.
You're withdrawing your motion. Thank you. Thank you. The panel is dismissed. Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to shine light on a moral atrocity going on in my home state of Florida. An immigrant internment camp that Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, and his administration have propped up in the middle of an abandoned airfield deep in the Florida Everglades. A place where nearly 1,000 humans are being forced to live in a tent city in the middle of the hot Florida summer, hot sun, where folks are not getting enough food. Detainees are exposed to the heat, wildlife, mosquitoes that can potentially carry disease, stripped of their civil rights, and as of this past Saturday, cut off from legal counsel. And while this humanitarian nightmare unfolds, soulless politicians like Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, grin and call this place, I'm actually not even going to use the name that they're calling it and dignify it, but they sell merch, they make jokes, they print hats with cartoon alligators dressed up as ICE agents, and they laugh as people and families are suffering. I can tell you the amount of constituents I've heard from. Their dad is in this facility. I haven't heard from them for weeks. No one with an eyes and a conscience can ignore what this really is. It's an internment camp, a place full of people who look like me, Latinos, Haitian men, subjugated to inhumane conditions under the guise of immigration enforcement. And it's disgusting. It's un-American. It demands oversight. Members of Congress have a legally protected right to conduct oversight of immigrant detention centers. That means that we have the power to show up unannounced, as I have on other occasions, and see what's going on with our own eyes. That was my plan and the plan of my fellow Florida congressional Democrats last week. We were ready to do our jobs. Somehow, word got out to the DeSantis administration that we were showing up, and so they decided to invite us at the same date and time we were going to show up anyway. But we took them up on that. We went in the facility, and here to talk a little bit about my experiences in there. You know, the state of Florida and DHS, they got wind of our visit, they got scared, they invited us, and of course what we got was a sanitized version of the way things usually are, but even that sanitized version to me was of poor conditions. You know, I also heard reports that the night before we showed up, magically the detainees got their first shower they had in a while. Magically they got one of their first actually good meals. And it just shows why the unannounced visits are so important to see how things really are. But I got to tell you, a clean cage is still a cage. And at the end of the day, in this facility, we have 32 men being crammed in each cage, about 4 to 6 cages in each tent. Each tent, you know, we brought a thermometer in there, was about 84, 85 degrees, of course, in the hot Florida sun. You know, I'll always remember walking in that front door and looking at these gentlemen in there, everyone screaming for help. One guy asking me to call his family. He was screaming out a phone number. I couldn't hear him. I couldn't get all the digits down. Only 3 sources of water per cage. They're the spigots connected to the toilets, much like the jail units we've seen. But usually in those jails, it's one of those units for 2 to 4 people, not 3 for 32 people. But I got to tell you, one of the most emotional parts for me was when we looked at the cages from afar. We weren't let in the tent, but standing at the doorway, hearing those chants, freedom, freedom, libertad, people yelling. This isn't security, it's cruelty. It's not immigration policy, it's dehumanizing people. You know, Trump said this was about keeping people safe. He said it's about going after criminals, but we all know is one big lie. Hundreds of the people being held in this internment camp have no criminal charges. I won't stay silent while our government turns the Everglades land, of which protecting it used to be a bipartisan thing, and the state is spending $450 million from our Division of Emergency Management to run this internment camp. And we're in hurricane season. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, I don't care what you are. The state, the Division of Emergency Management has the ability to spend up to $500 million without going to the legislature and emergency money. They're going up to $450. We're about to go into hurricane season, which means that when a hurricane is barreling towards our state, they're not going to be able to do what they need to do immediately to save lives because every minute matters. They'll have to go back to the legislature and beg for more money because they spent $450 million of our money on a damn internment camp in the middle of the Everglades. Along with partners, we're going to do something about it. Of course, litigation has been filed. I think what's important for people to know is that this is a federal facility. We were told that ICE is calling the shots here. Federal facility run and operated by the state. I yield back. Good. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much to our witnesses for being here. You know, our witnesses have made the point that the bid protest process can help make the federal contracting process fair and transparent, which is obviously very important. Unfortunately, there's been a large absence of fairness and transparency, especially with the current administration. And I really want to focus in and to talk about what the absence of fairness and transparency would mean for the true funders and true clients of these contracts, which are our constituents and the American people. Professor Eukins, are there examples from outside the United States where businesses lack the ability to challenge government contracting decisions?
Yes, sir. The most profound example was in South Africa under Jacob Zuma, when Jacob Zuma and the Gupta family were able to seize control of actually a small part of the overall procurement system in South Africa, but they delegitimized the entire young democracy in South Africa as a result. A lot of what you see from President Ramaphosa now in his response, his aggressive response against corruption, is because of what they did, what Jacob Zuma and the Gupta family did in procurement. So when a procurement system collapses, it affects the entire government.
What has that meant for the results of those contracts and the people of those countries' return on the investment?
What it's meant is that for South Africa, for example, is now revamping their procurement system dramatically. I think in our own country here, as we're moving forward, I mean, it will be important for there to be, as you say, as much transparency as possible in order to keep. So, a concrete example, and something that I know that's very important to you, is the detention centers that are likely to be forward. The detention centers have been a classic example of private capital being used aggressively by the federal government to put facilities in place. And if those detention facilities are not procured using transparent processes that set standards as to what the detention facility should look like based on the contracts, then there could be very serious ramifications across the government.
Yeah, I'm really happy you brought this up because it's something I wanted to talk about. You know, about a week and a half ago, I did a tour of this, what I would call an internment camp, but it's an immigrant detention center in the middle of the Everglades in the state of Florida, being operated by the Florida Division of Emergency Management, which is tasked with keeping our people safe during a hurricane. And they're spending about $450 million of the $500 million cap that they can spend to prepare for hurricanes on the detention center. So hurricane comes up in the Gulf tomorrow, barreling towards Florida. They have to go back to the legislature and spend time doing that instead of taking care of the people of our state. But that's a whole other thing. I want to talk about the lack of transparency and fairness we're seeing in this because I don't want to see this exported across the country. The most recent example is this Everglades facility. Here's some examples. CDR Health, which has donated about $4 million to Republicans in Florida over $500,000 to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis a few months ago, won a $17.5 million contract for this specific facility. IRG Global, which has given $400,000 to Governor DeSantis and the GOP, including $10,000 to the Florida GOP just hours before they were awarded a $1.1 million contract for this immigrant detention center. They're running the camp operations, and they got another $5 million contract later in a few weeks after that. None of these businesses hired to build, staff, and run this immigrant detention facility have any prior experience with immigrant detention centers and no prior experience with anything in corrections facilities or anything around that. This is costing us 8 to 10 times what it usually costs to house a typical inmate. And I would like to enter into the record unanimous consent on this article from the Orlando Sentinel.
Without objection.
Yeah, it's Florida's disaster pipeline funnels millions to politically connected contractors. Look, I mean, and I don't care what party you're in. This is something we should all, and I don't care what your politics are, this is something that should worry all of us. When in the state of Florida, the money set aside to protect us from hurricanes is being used for what I would say is a politically motivated promise in this mass deportation thing. But not even just that, but the money that's being awarded to these contractors is not being done in a transparent way. It's completely bypassing the typical process you go to have a contractor in the state of Florida, and then it's seemingly going to people who've donated millions and millions of dollars to the guy making the decisions. And so this is something that should be on the mind of all people across the country, and every Floridian, especially as we talk about procurement and as we talk about third-party contractors. Thank you, and I yield back.
I yield to Ranking Member Frost for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much for the witnesses for being here today. I'm glad that we're discussing the potential of nuclear energy. With our climate in crisis, we have to get over our addiction of fossil fuels, and diversifying our energy mix is essential for our national security and bringing down the cost of energy for Americans. I believe nuclear is part of that solution. According to one study, replacing fossil fuels with nuclear power has prevented almost 2 million deaths worldwide from air pollution, as well as 64 gigatons of carbon dioxide emissions. We're lucky that nuclear power has a strong safety record in the United States. However, though, this does not mean that it's inherently safe. It means that the rules and regulations that prevent a nuclear accident have helped us keep us safe for more than 45 years. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission, or the NRC, is the independent agency responsible for protecting public health and safety by regulating nuclear reactors, and the safety requirements it sets are considered the global gold standard for a reason. Before the United States became the world leader in nuclear safety regulation, loosely supervised government contractors exposed workers and the public to vast quantities of poorly stored radioactive waste at facilities across the country. Our government failed at protecting our people and exposed many communities to harm. Take, for example, the families who lived and worked around the Hanford nuclear production facility in Washington State. In the era prior to effective regulation, farm workers like Maria Niacasio and her family would drink from and bathe in river contaminated by waste from the nearby reactors and plutonium processing facilities. They ate crops that were poisoned by these facilities as well. Maria's mother died of cancer at 60, and tumors developed in both her brother's and her son's heads. We are living, as one government website explains, Maria's family, quote, and thousands of other farm workers were likely victims of the effects of radiation from the Hanford nuclear facility, end quote. We're still living with the legacy of government mismanagement and corporate issues as it relates to nuclear. But look also internationally as well. Look at the 2011 Fukushima reactor disaster in Japan. The incident forced more than 150,000 people to evacuate their homes, and the ongoing decontamination efforts are projected to continue for decades. Actually, in my first term as a new member of Congress, I had the opportunity to travel to Fukushima and spent the day there with a radiation suit on and a Geiger counter, but I learned about the lessons that Japan has learned from that disaster and how they're forging forward, especially as it relates to SMRs. I'm not here to fearmonger. I'm not an anti-nuclear person, but the lessons from history are clear. The nuclear industry must be well regulated. Only then can nuclear energy play a role in powering our economy, fighting the climate crisis, and reducing deaths from fossil fuel pollution. Predictably, the Trump administration is putting these possibilities in jeopardy by crippling the NRC and directing the agency to literally rubber stamp, quote, rubber stamp nuclear projects to get them done as soon as possible. We should be asking whether or not the country or even the nuclear power industry really benefits from a lot of the administration's wholesale attack on the people and rules that make America's independent, nonpartisan nuclear safety regulators the envy of the world. The Trump administration should ask itself whether it wants to be responsible for big disasters that could happen. When we talk about Fukushima, what happened in Hanford, when we can instead expand our nuclear power capacity without exposing Americans to more danger. Instead of rubber stamping new reactors, we should be looking at promoting innovative ideas. How can we use modeling and simulation to strengthen the licensing applications and safely streamline the process for proven standardized technologies? I hope that today, along with our witnesses, we can shed light on smart next steps that don't involve burning to the ground the structures that keep us safe. Oftentimes when we talk about streamlining and making things faster, the knee-jerk reaction is, well, let's get rid of a lot of the regulations that have kept Americans safe for years and years and years, which can put communities, especially small communities that don't have the resources and the big lawyers to be able to advocate on their own behalf against big nuclear companies, puts them at risk and takes power away from especially small communities across the country. Instead of that being the knee-jerk reaction, how about looking at how we can streamline our processes? I would suggest that our next hearing on this topic also include a witness from the Department of Energy's Nuclear Energy Advanced Modeling and Simulation Program and the Oak Ridge Advanced Modeling and Oak Ridge National Lab to talk about their work in bringing technology to bear on how to safely accelerate the process of deploying advanced nuclear energy technologies. Also, maybe no one from the Trump administration is here to defend its policies because they know that a lot of the things they've done to cripple the NRC are indefensible. And in the words of a former commissioner chairman, Trump's actions are, quote, a guillotine to the nation's nuclear safety system, end quote. And I think this is really important. It could actually do nuclear a huge disservice in deregulating up the wazoo just to rubber stamp stuff and move it forward, something happens, it can put us back decades and decades and decades, especially when we talk about public opinion, which can already be fraught on subjects like this. When I agree, we do need to move faster, but we have to move faster in a very careful way. And so we should be looking at how we can keep our nuclear project approval process strong, but we also have to put the working people of this country above greed and folks who are threatening to poison our nuclear power industry for decades to come by taking too many steps back. And so I hope we can have that holistic view of this issue in this hearing, but also as we move forward. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Big recognition. Mr. Frost.
No, I just have a question for my colleague from the state of Louisiana, because I'm curious as to where your bill is. Louisiana is the state with the second highest rate of deaths in this nation. You are more likely to be shot standing on a random street in your state than you are in Washington, D.C. So my question is, where's your bill for the occupation of the state of Louisiana to keep your people safe, if you're at all sincere in this?
Gentleman, yield for an answer.
I yield for an answer.
I support state rights. I'm a constitutionalist.
But not D.C.?
Stand by. As a constitutionalist, I support my state, my sovereign state's legislature, which is doing everything it can to push back upon the crime rate of the Democrat-controlled cities
Okay,
of
so
New Orleans,
I'll take my time back. I'll take my time back.
If you remove
That's the rules.
crime stats
That's the
of New
rules.
Orleans,
I'll take my time back.
Louisiana, one of the
I'll take my
safest
time back. So you only invoke the rules
in the
when
country.
other people are speaking, not when you're speaking. Okay.
That's your time.
I agree with you. Look, I'm for state sovereignty. So what do you think about California?
Well, California is not where I live. You asked me about my state.
See, you only care, and I'll reclaim my time. I'll reclaim my time. I'll reclaim my time. I'll reclaim my time. I will reclaim my time. The gentleman will stop speaking. I will reclaim my time. You're more likely to be shot standing in a random street in your state in Louisiana than anywhere in Washington, D.C. And you're here because you're lapdogs to the President of the United States, who during the election last year, we said time and time again, I reclaim my time.
Down, Mr. Chairman.
All right, hold on.
My colleague just called me a lapdog for the President of the United States. I move for his words to be taken down.
A second.
We'll stand in recess for a second here. We will suspend to see about taking the words down.
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to withdraw my remark.
Gentleman's asked unanimous consent to withdraw his remarks. Without objection, so ordered. We will proceed with the debate. The words were taken down, and
I will continue with the reminder.
Point of order.
Mr. Frost has 3 minutes. Okay, point of order.
My point was that Mr. Frost has a right to his time.
Yeah,
unobstructed time, an opportunity to speak, and I think if we afforded him that right under the rules, then we wouldn't have this back and forth.
That's fine. He started by asking if people would yield to a question. I think that's how it all started.
He reclaimed his time, at least a half a dozen times.
I'm giving him 3 minutes. Well, even though I don't have to because of the rules, I'm giving him 3 minutes.
You're running this hearing, sir.
Okay, I'm giving.
Not a spectator.
Okay. Okay, you got 3 minutes, Mr. Frost. Go ahead.
This body is full of lapdogs, doing exactly what the president wants, when he wants it, not pushing back. And what we just heard, this exchange with me and my colleague, is indicative of the problem here. None of you know anything about Washington, D.C. You're talking about a so-called, walking down the street and talking with people that are walking their dogs, people in the restaurants you go to, which might not be full of people from D.C. anyway. And it's just sad. It is sad. We need D.C. statehood. There are people, yes, we need D.C. statehood. We need to put this behind us. We need to stop, it's wild to me that we're here debating with people from the Republican Party, a party that's supposed to be about states' rights and local rule and people, the consent of the governed, which is fundamental to our Constitution and this country. But before you, we have activists, organizers, people who are here to say that they want a voice. They want to be represented by the government that they pay taxes to. Free DC. Free DC. And it's just grand to sit here with other members who have higher murder rates than Washington, D.C., but not invite the president to occupy their own state with the military. So I think it's important that we're here today to have this debate, because this is a debate about what's going on in Washington, D.C., and why every American should be concerned. And why, of course, every American should be concerned about what the president's doing, but in many cases, even more concerned about the fact that Congress and that Republicans in Congress want to do nothing about it, and in fact, they want to enable it and do anything the president says. The gentleman couldn't even answer the question about if the bill was drafted with the White House. We know it was drafted with the White House. And so we say free D.C., and we'll continue to fight for the people of Washington, D.C., who deserve for their home to be a state, who deserve for their local officials that they voted for, their city council, their members, to make decisions about how to make sure that this is a safer place. And I gotta say, when we talk about crime, when we talk about violence, gun violence has been going down in this country the last 3 years. We still have a lot of work to do, but you guys talk about it and nothing happens. We put forth solutions and pass bills like the Safer Communities Act, and violence goes down in this country. That's the difference between us. I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Frost.
Just to continue off of that point, which I think is true, you keep bringing up the Constitution, but the Constitution does not prohibit Congress from ensuring that the 700,000 people who live in Washington, D.C. can live in a state and have a state. It says there needs to be a federal district that Congress, yes, has authority over. And what we're trying to do is make it so we change the boundaries of that federal district to be the places that we work, the United States Congress, the White House, the National Mall. So these 700,000 people can have proper representation because they're paying taxes. The Constitution does not say you can't make Washington, D.C. and make sure that these 700,000 people have a state. And I think it's really important to know that. The other thing is the founders in 1790, there were fewer than 5,000 people living in the District of Columbia. Now there's over 700,000.
Will the gentleman yield for a question?
Sure.
What does that have to do with the 5,600 people that were living on the streets 6 weeks ago?
Good question. I'll reclaim my time. I'll get right to that, because you brought up that there's so many people, cities across the entire country that are criminalizing homelessness, and it's true, it's going on. After the disastrous Supreme Court decision, Grants Pass versus Johnson, we see cities across the country criminalizing homelessness. Hell, my own city of Orlando has done it too, and I think it's despicable. I think it's wrong if a blue city does it. I think it's wrong if a red city does it. Because the problem here is you're not looking to solve homelessness, you're looking to hide it. You're not looking to provide an alternative to living on the street. You're looking to brush it away to another place.
Will the gentleman yield?
And not yet. And I think it's important. The other thing is the sponsor of this bill brought up, well, we're just giving them a tool. The tool is criminalization. That's the tool that you're handing federal law enforcement, that they can be fined and jailed. Further putting people who are having a tough time in life living on the streets into this cycle. You were talking about supporting services. Well, you have a chance. Donald Trump's FY26 budget, he wants to cut HUD by 44%. I'll yield to you if you can tell me if you're going to stand up to that. You were saying that you want to have services for people. This would make massive cuts to affordable housing, homeless services, rental assistance, all the things that help us keep people off the streets. Will you join us in opposing that?
That's a great talking point. We both know that the funding's not going to be different. So I mean,
the funding
yes,
will be different.
A budget
the number
is an
for the
aspirational
programs.
document.
I'll reclaim my time. The number for the programs that help homeless services will go down. Do you support that?
The president's budget is always an aspirational document, and we both know. And again, what?
I'll
how
reclaim my
we
time. Are you
talking
saying it
about-
doesn't matter what the? I mean, your president's saying he wants to cut HUD by 44%.
We have $37 trillion
I'll
in debt
reclaim
on
my
a $2
time.
trillion annual
I'll reclaim my
deficit.
time. 44% he wants to cut HUD. He wants to cut homeless services for your district and my district. Do you agree with that? I'll yield if you can answer yes, yes or no, really.
You and I both know that the funding will be no different than last year.
Oh, so
And
you're
we're going to move forward.
So you'll work at opposing the president's request.
I know how the system works, and I know that it requires 60 votes in the Senate to change government funding, and we're not going to get 60 votes to do anything. So we're going to have a CR. But again, how are you going to help the 5,600 people? You say that this
I'll
is not a
reclaim my
tool.
time. I'll reclaim my. How are we going to help them? By fighting to ensure that the president and your party doesn't further erode the little services that we have in this country. We need housing, not handcuffs. We have a housing crisis in this country.
the gentleman yield.
Every time the rent goes up $100, homelessness goes up 9%. Let me say it one more time. Every time the rent goes up $100, homelessness goes up 9%. Homelessness is a housing problem. And you have no solutions for us here. You're talking about, again, trying to hide a problem rather than fix a problem. It is both cheaper and less challenging for us as a nation to keep people housed than, yes, to help them when they're on the streets. We need to help people when they're on the streets, but we need to fund rental assistance, transitional housing, permanent supporter housing, shelters, all this suite of services that help us keep our people on top of a certain line. Because it does cost more, and it is harder, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't do it.
Will the gentleman yield?
And the president that you follow and that you are lauding wants to make a historic cut to the few services that we have so we can keep people from off the streets. And I think it's despicable. And you come here and try to act like there's a problem with us because we have a problem with you working to criminalize homelessness. People see
Sorry,
beyond
it's
that.
already criminal. The D.C. city police are not enforcing it. So what do you want us to do?
The tool you want to give federal law enforcement is allow them to go and arrest people who are sleeping on the streets because they have nowhere else to sleep. We shouldn't be criminalizing homeless people for the failures of government. Let's step up. Let's try to work together and ensure that we eradicate homelessness and fix this housing crisis. I yield back. Good afternoon. My name is Maxwell Frost. I proudly represent my hometown of Central Florida here in the United States Congress. I want to thank Senator Chris Murphy and Congressman Jason Crow for their leadership on this important legislation to fight back against the Trump administration's attacks on the most fundamental freedom that we have as Americans, the freedom to speak, to dissent, and to criticize our government without fear. We should all be very fearful and scared of what we're seeing happening in this country right now. This administration is scaring people into silence, ridiculing reporters and blocking them from the White House, suing and extorting settlements from the media, threatening ABC over Kimmel, taking funding from nonprofits, intimidating businesses who cave to their demands. We need to be asking what will be left of this nation when the Trump administration is finished. And this isn't even about left versus right. It's not even about silencing certain political leaning. We've seen even right-wing news mainstream media outlets that are too scared to even question him at the most basic parts. This is about silencing criticism of Donald Trump, who believes that he's a king. Donald Trump doesn't want a democracy. He wants a throne, and his cronies are clearing the way. The president and his lapdogs here in the United States Congress, the vice president, the FCC chair, the attorney general, secretary of state, and congressional Republicans are implementing a dangerous agenda to punish their opposition. Fascism is not on the way, it is here. The First Amendment is how generations of Americans, from civil rights activists to labor organizers, American worker, LGBTQ plus activists, have fought for progress, and it is our power. And I say this as someone who has protested on the streets of my district, has been tear gas, mace, arrested, and jailed in the jail I now represent in Congress. So this is very personal to me. We cannot let the fear of speaking out become normal. We cannot allow truth-telling become a crime, and we cannot let them silence us. The NOPE Act is about strengthening the laws that protect the people from an administration that fears truth and fears democracy. An administration that wants to divide our nation, divide the working class, to distract from the fact that they're doing everything they can to enrich billionaires and to enrich mega corporations. That's exactly what happened with Jimmy Kimmel last night. The Oversight Committee will have more to say about this, what happened last night. But look no further than the fact that Sinclair is in the middle of an acquisition that the FCC has to approve. All of this ties back to money and people enriching themselves and bending the knee to Donald Trump to make it happen. This bill will give us another tool to fight back. And while congressional Republicans lie down and do nothing and enable this, Democrats will be advancing this bill, launching investigations, sending subpoenas to expose the ever-mounting corruption. When we don't have all the power we want, we use all the power we got, and that's what this bill is about. When we use every tool we have, especially our freedom of speech, to stand up to the onslaught against the American people, we can win, and I encourage my Republican colleagues to join us on this. Thank you.
Thanks. Maxwell.
Guys, is Mr. Frost from Florida.
I yield 10 seconds to Mr. Mfume.
To Mr. Mfume.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. I'm sorry that my colleague from Texas has left the room. I just want to say that he pointed out in his remarks that the founders of the Constitution said that D.C. should be a federal district and never a state, as if they were right. And I would just simply call to his attention those same persons at that same constitutional convention and for 200 years afterwards said that black people in this country were property, not citizens. And then the Dred Scott decision said that we were 3/5 of an individual. So just because they said it clearly does not make it right, and it doesn't make it right with D.C.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you bringing that up. And also, they're wrong about what's in the Constitution in the first place. The Constitution does not say that we cannot make Washington, D.C. a state. It does not say that. You claim to know the Constitution, and you haven't read it. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that we can't do that. What it says is there should be a federal district. And the legislation put forth by Representative Norton and supported by House Democrats would make the federal district encompass the places that we work, the White House, the United States Congress, the Supreme Court, and not include the 700,000 people who live in D.C., who pay taxes but don't have proper representation.
That's right.
You know, usually when we're talking about D.C. in this committee, it's, you know, usually we have just folks who can watch in the audience. But I'm happy that today's different because we have representatives from the district's local government and Mr. Greg Jackson Jr. here to give voice to what's going on in Washington, D.C. Greg, you've called the district home for decades. You bring the perspective of the D.C.'s people to this committee. You bring years of expertise and experience in crime reduction to this hearing. And of course, a survivor of gun violence yourself. Before President Trump started playing dictator with the people of D.C., he started dismantling important community safety and violence crime prevention programs, most notably the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention. Not a partisan office, an office that worked at reducing crime in all of our districts. As a former deputy director of that office, can you describe some of the important work that has stopped due to this administration?
Yeah, one of the most critical things was we were coordinating the response to mass shootings and concentrations of violence. And so without that coordination, cities, states, and local jurisdictions are on their own to navigate these mass tragedies. We implemented 54 executive actions, including adding $2 billion to the Victims of Crime Act fund. And I will note that on August 2025, multiple states, I believe 24 states, sued this administration for withholding $1 billion in resources for victims of violent crime. But we were the ones that were pushing more resources to victims. We also fully implemented the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act that each party came together on and voted for in 2022. And then lastly, we work directly with local leaders to make sure that we're elevating strategies that work across the country.
You also prevented serious crimes by ensuring that we prevent access to illegal guns, correct?
Correct. We partnered with agencies to do that.
You know, between 2017 and 2021, over 11,000 criminal firearms were recovered in D.C. Most of them, as you noted before, come from outside Washington, D.C. And an interesting statistic, too, is a third of those guns traveled over 300 miles. Over 300 miles to come here. You want to know where they came from? South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, Tennessee, Ohio. These are the states where these guns are coming from. States that don't have good gun laws. States that aren't keeping their people safe, and as a result and byproduct have wreaked havoc on the people of Washington, D.C. Trump's total disregard for American safety is obvious from his current budget requests. Having already fired a majority of the federal gun dealers' inspectors, now he wants to slash another $1 billion that could be used to crack down on these guns. Congressional Republicans are also doing their part to make us less safe. They're trying to remove restrictions on silencers, trying to remove restrictions on rifles, even on firearms designed to look like everyday objects. And we even know that they're insincere in this because I just listed states that have some of the highest murder rates in the nation. I asked this question last time and asked it again. Where's their bill? If this is the way to end crime, and this is the thing everybody wants, why don't they have a bill to invite the military to occupy their states, which have the highest crime rates in this nation? They're not going to do it because they don't want the military to occupy their communities in their states because they know it's a load of crap and they're insincere about it. I yield back.